All right, we are on Facebook and we are on YouTube, and we only have 7 people. Oh my God. All right. Only 7 people tonight. All right, I guess we should start. Even if no one else comes, we should start at the right time. Okay, so we'll chant Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Gopichana Panapa, Jaya Girivardhari, Girivardhari, Gopichana Panapa, Jaya Girivardhari, Girivardhari, Yasoda Nandana, Jaya Rajajana Ranjana, Yasoda Nandana, Jaya Rajajana Ranjana, Yamunatira Manachare Naha Kunja Vihari, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Yamuna Tiramanachare, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Kunja Vihari, Jaya Randa Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Jaya Randa Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Gopichana Panapa, Jaya Girivardhari, Girivardhari, Gopichana Panapa, Jaya Girivardhari, Girivardhari, Yasoda Nandana, Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana, Yasoda Nandana, Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Manachari Kunja Vihari, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Yamuna Tira Manachari Kunja Vihari, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Jaya Randa Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Jaya Randa Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikachar Ostutera Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Chananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Thakur Ki Jai. Param Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Shyam Kund Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai. Jagannatha Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai. Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyabadi Paschatya Deja Tarane. So, Om Ganat Timidandasha Gananjana Shalakya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we'll continue with our reading on the Caitanya Charitamrta. So Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, so we are reading from the 7th chapter of the Adi Lila of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, beginning with text number 106. And this chapter is about the 5 personalities called the Pancha Tattva. And of course, right now we are reading about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's interaction or interactions with the Mayavadis in Benares, headed up by Prakashananda Saraswati. And right now, the Mayavadis are beginning to appreciate Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they want to hear about Vedanta from him, and Lord Chaitanya will explain Vedanta to them, which is very, very interesting. Okay, let's continue sharing our screen. Let's see, screen share. Where did that go? Oh, there it is. We're sharing the screen. I think it has to be bigger for all of you. Let's make it a little bigger so you can all see. And then we will remove the black area. And then we will show the participants, move the screen over. Just give me 1 second to get everything ready. Ooh, all right, move the screen over a little bit. There we go. That is very good. Very, very good. Okay. I think we are ready to go. And if you have a question during the class, just raise your hand in the participants window, not in your video window. Okay, so let's continue reading. Prabhu Kahi Vedanta Sutra Ishvara Vachana Yasarupe Kailayaha Sri Narayana. The Lord said, Vedanta philosophy consists of words spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan in the form of Vyasadeva. So, Prabhupada explains that the Vedanta Sutra, which consists of aphorisms revealing the method of understanding Vedic knowledge, is the concise form of all Vedic knowledge. It begins with the words, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. The human form of life is especially meant for this purpose, and therefore the Vedanta Sutra very concisely explains the human mission. This is confirmed by the words of the Vayu and Skanda Puranas, which define a sutra as follows. You can hear what a sutra is. Alpaksharam asandigdam saravat vishvato mukham ashtovam anavadyam cha sutram sutra vidho vidhu. A sutra is a compilation of aphorisms that expresses the essence of all knowledge in a minimum of words. It must be universally applicable and faultless in its linguistic presentation. Anyone familiar with such sutras must be aware of the Vedanta Sutra, which is well known among scholars by the following additional names: Brahma Sutra, Sarirakya, Vyasa Sutra, Badarayana Sutra, Uttaramimamsa, and Vedanta Darshana. There are 4 chapters, adhyayas, in the Vedanta Sutra, and there are 4 divisions, padas, in each chapter. Therefore, the Vedanta Sutra may be referred to as Sodasha Pada, or 16 divisions or aphorisms. In other words, 4 times 4 is 16. Simple mathematics. The theme of each and every division is fully described in terms of 5 different subject matters, adhikaranas, which are technically called pratigya, hetu, udaharana, upanaya, and nigamana. Every theme must necessarily be explained with reference to pratigya, or a solemn declaration of the purpose of the treatise. That's in the beginning. The solemn declaration is given in the beginning. Well, that's what Prabhupada said, Vedanta Sutra Tata Brahma Jigyasa, which indicates that this book was written with a solemn declaration to inquire about the absolute truth. Similarly, reasons must be expressed. Hetu means cause. Examples must be given in terms of various facts, which is exactly what that means, udaharana, and the theme must gradually be brought nearer for understanding. Upa means to get closer, naya, the argument that's brought closer. And finally, it must be supported by authoritative quotations from the Vedic Shastras, nigamana. According to the great dictionary compiler Hemachandra, also known as Koshakara, Vedanta refers to the purport of the Upanishads and the Brahmana portion of the Vedas, which is actually what I mentioned before, that the Upanishads and the original 4 Vedic literatures are commented on by the Vedanta. And the Vedanta is commented on by the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Acharya's commentaries on the Vedanta. Professor Apte, in his dictionary, and in fact you can find direct correspondence between different verses in the Vedanta Sutra and different Upanishadic verses. Professor Apte, in his dictionary, describes the Brahmana portion of the Vedas as that portion which states the rules for employment of hymns at various sacrifices and gives detailed explanations of their origins, sometimes with lengthy illustrations in the form of legends and stories. It is distinct from the mantra portion of the Vedas. Hemachandra says that the supplement of the Vedas is called the Vedanta Sutra. Veda means knowledge, and Anta means the end. Doesn't mean end in terms of finished, bas. It means the conclusion, okay? The conclusion of knowledge. In other words, proper understanding, the ultimate purpose of the Vedas is called Vedanta knowledge. Such knowledge is given in the aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra, must be supported by the Upanishads. Of course, the Vedanta Sutra is a commentary on the Upanishads. And let me explain what sutra is after we finish with this purport. According to learned scholars, there are 3 different sources of knowledge, which are called prasthana traya. Now we're talking about epistemology. How do you know what you know? According to these scholars, Vedanta is one of such sources, for it presents Vedic knowledge on the basis of logic and sound arguments. In the Bhagavad Gita 13:5, the Lord says, Brahma Sutra Paraischaiva Hetu Mad Vijahai. Understanding the ultimate goal of life is ascertained in the Brahma Sutra by legitimate logic and argument concerning cause and effect. Therefore, the Vedanta Sutra is known as Nyaya Prasthana. So that means using logic to establish. The Upanishads are known as Shruti Prasthana. In other words, the evidence is to hear from a higher source. And the Gita, Mahabharata, and Puranas are known as Smriti Prasthana. In other words, it's some historical evidence. That's a different type of evidence, hearing about history. All scientific knowledge of transcendence must be supported by Shruti, Smriti, and sound logical basis. Very good. That's our epistemology. It's not supported by pratyaksha. And what do I mean by pratyaksha? Pratyaksha. Pratyaksha actually means eyes or to see. So it means direct perception. By direct perception, we cannot establish the absolute truth. I mean, if you would say, well, I haven't seen God, I don't see God, all I see is my computer. And the computer seems to know everything. Therefore, the computer must be God. No, Google, sorry. Computer is just a via media for Google. Because whatever is to be known, whatever could be known, whatever was known, is known by Google. Wow. Just like before class, I Googled something to find out about some other religion, some ceremony that some other religion was doing, just to get, I knew a little bit, but I wanted a full explanation. So Google must be God, according to pratyaksha, direct perception. But pratyaksha is faulty. Why? According to the Vedic literatures, we have imperfect senses, tendency to cheat. We make mistakes, and we are in illusion, buddy. So therefore, the practical, of course, we have Shruti, Smriti. Smriti basically refers to the Gita, Mahabharata, and the Puranas, okay, especially Bhagavad Purana, or Puranas that have been sent down through disciplic succession untouched. Many of the Puranas, most of the Puranas nowadays have been changed because they haven't been passed down in disciplic succession. So we accept the Bhagavad Purana. And we accept logic. We accept logic, yeah. That's important. We accept deductive reasoning. And if you don't know what that is, you look it up. You Google it. You go to the Google God, and you ask Google what deductive reasoning is. We don't accept inductive reasoning. I'll explain what that means, since most of you are not qualified to approach Google God, and I am. So, inductive reasoning means that we base our experience, our limited experience, on, let's say we arrive at a conclusion, to be more precise, based upon our limited experience. We've experienced certain things, therefore we come to a conclusion, draw a general conclusion. For example, every morning I've seen the sun rise, right? That's my perception. And therefore, inductively, I can say the sun always rises in the morning. But that's imperfect perception, because it may not be true. And I'll give you an example. How my perception and induction based on my perception was wrong. You may say, what do you mean wrong, buddy? What do you mean the sun doesn't rise every morning? Well, I got news for you. If you go very far south or north, the sun will not rise in certain places for many months of the year. Not the morning, not the evening, not the middle of the night. It just doesn't rise. Oh my God. And at other times of the year, the sun doesn't set. It's a fact. So I've arrived at a conclusion just based upon my limited perception. That's called induction. I've come to a conclusion because I've seen a limited number of cases. I cannot see an unlimited number of cases because I ain't God. I am a jiva soul. So therefore, God can make a statement, because not only has he seen a number of cases, or unlimited cases, but he's arranged for unlimited cases. He's Ishvara. He's the Supreme Personality of God. He knows everything past, present, and future. So therefore, induction does not give a perfect result as far as ascertaining the absolute truth. Deduction does, because you start a deduction with certain facts. Sometimes we call these facts axioms. Okay, an axiom is something like things equal to the same thing are equal to each other. Ba, da. That's an axiom. So anyway, so you start with incontrovertible axioms, and then you deduct later conclusions from the incontrovertible axioms. Like Descartes. Descartes said, cogito ergo sum. He said, throw out everything else, but at least I know I exist because I'm conscious. Cogito ergo sum. Sometimes that's translated, I think, therefore I am. So that's an axiom, and you base other things. I think, therefore I am. So you am, or I am, you am, we all am. I know that's not good English. I know how to conjugate the verbs in English. So anyway, so Shruti, Smriti, and logic are prasthanas, are ways of receiving knowledge. And so also we hear from perfect person. That's Shruti, right? As we hear from Prabhupada. Shruti, we hear, of course, sometimes the word Shruti refers to the original four Vedas, Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, but in this particular case it means hearing from an incontrovertible source, like Krishna, Bhagavad Gita. Gita is sometimes called the Gita Upanishad. So we hear from the Bhagavad Gita. That's hearing. That's it. Hear from the Bhagavatam. That's like Smriti. And we draw our conclusions. For example, let me give you a logical conclusion we can draw from the Shruti and the Smriti. Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhava matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajanti mam. Everything comes from me. Right? Aham sarvasya prabhava. Everything comes from me. Okay. Everything comes from Krishna. So everything is absolute. So therefore, I'm holding my microphone right now. So that also comes from Krishna, belongs to Krishna. That's a logical conclusion. Krishna says everything comes from him. Therefore, you can conclude, here is a thing, this microphone. I don't know if you could see it. Probably you're not watching it. But anyway, I'm touching my microphone. So the microphone is a thing. And therefore, because it's a thing and everything comes from Krishna, that means the microphone is ultimately coming from Krishna. I'm a thing, too. I mean, I'm also a person, but a thing person. So I come from Krishna, too. Aham bija pradapita. Krishna is the seed-giving father of everyone, it says. So I am one of everybody, so I must be in the position of son in relationship to Krishna. Like, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bakora. Okay. That's a Christian prayer, which is all right. And I add a little Indian flair to it. So anyway, so you can understand that's what logic means. I've really given an example or several examples of logic, and Smriti, and Shruti. So that's what Vedanta, that's what our knowledge is based on. It's not based on, what did I say? Pratyaksha, direct perception. Because direct perception is faulty. You can see things that are not there, or you could not see things that are there, or you could see things and interpret them. For example, you could see a rope and think it's a snake. You could see a snake and think it's a rope. So that's imperfection. You see a mirage. Remember when I used to drive through states like Arizona? Arizona is called Arizona. It's a zone, it's a place that's arid. Arid means no water, dry. Desert. I didn't say dessert. Dessert is something you eat. But desert. Hear the difference in pronunciation? Dessert, desert. See the subtle difference. Dessert, desert. A desert is a place where there's no rain, it's all sand and everything. So driving through there, many years ago when I used to drive around the country preaching Krishna consciousness, and I was so ecstatic, a great brahmachari, then we would drive through Arizona and we'd see water on the road. But there was no water on the road. That's called a mirage, because the sun would reflect in such a way. So imperfect senses. So I hope I made that point about our epistemology. Of course, for those of you who don't remember, epistemology means how do you know what you know? What do you accept as sources of knowledge? And if you're really interested in this subject matter of epistemology, read the Tattva Sandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami, which deals in epistemology or with epistemology. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry for the monologue. So let's continue. It is said that both the Vedic knowledge and the supplement of the Vedas called the Sattvata Pancharatra emanated from the breathing of Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vedanta Sutra aphorisms were compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, a powerful incarnation of Sri Narayana, although it is sometimes said that they were compiled by a great sage named Apantaratma. 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 Sorry, got it right. Sometimes I get so excited I start coughing. There's nothing wrong with me. The Pancharatra and Vedanta Sutra, however, express the same opinions. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu therefore confirms that there is no difference in opinion between the two, and he declares that because the Vedanta Sutra was compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, it may be understood to have emanated from the breathing of Sri Narayana. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that while Vyasadeva was compiling the Vedanta Sutra, 7 of his great saintly contemporaries were also engaged in similar work. These saints were Atreya Rishi, Asmaratya, Odalnomi, Karshnajani, Kashakritsna, Jaimani, and Bhadari. In addition, it is stated that Parashari and Karamandi Vikshu also discussed the Vedanta Sutra aphorisms before Vyasadeva. Parashari, it would seem to be a feminine name. Let me just look this up. I just want to check this out, if that's all right with you. Just give me 1 second to consult my God, Google. I offer my humble obeisances unto Google, who is able to answer any. Parasari. It's a type of astrology, but anyway. Just give me 1 second. I think it's important. Male or female? Doesn't mention. All right, let's go back to Parasari. No, Parasara. Parasara is the father of Vyasadeva. Parasari is feminine. There's a difference between parasari and parasara. And it has a long I. Anyway, we'll figure it out. We will figure it out somehow or other. Looks like the god of Google hasn't figured it out. Anyway, so it's a long I. Anyway, because it would have said parasara muni. As mentioned above, the Vedanta Sutra consists of 4 chapters. The first 2 chapters discuss the relationship of the living entity with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is known as Sambandha Gyan, or knowledge of the relationship. The 3rd chapter describes how one can act in his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called Abhidheya Gyan. The relationship of the living entity with the Supreme Lord is described by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Nitya Krishna Das. Nitya Das. Or Krishnara Nitya Das. Anyway, it's written both ways. The living entity is an eternal servant of Krishna, the Supreme God. That's from the Caitanya Charitamrta, Majja Lila, 20th chapter, text 108. Very auspicious. Therefore, to act in that relationship, one must perform sadhana bhakti, or the prescribed duties of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called Abhidheya Gyan. The 4th chapter describes the result of such devotional service, Prayojana Gyan. This ultimate goal of life is to go back home, back to Godhead. The words Anavritti Shabdat in the Vedanta Sutra indicate this ultimate goal. Anavritti, you negate this material world, go back to Godhead. Srila Vyasadeva, a powerful incarnation of Narayana, compiled the Vedanta Sutra, and in order to protect it from unauthorized commentaries, he personally composed Srimad Bhagavatam on the instruction of the spiritual master Narada Muni. As those who follow Shankara's commentary have described the Vedanta Sutra in an impersonal way, without reference to Vishnu Bhakti or devotional service to the Lord Vishnu. Generally, people are very much appreciate the Sharirakya Bhasha, or impersonal description of the Vedanta Sutra, but all commentaries that are devoid of devotional service to Lord Vishnu must be considered to differ in purport from the original Vedanta Sutra. In other words, Lord Caitanya definitely confirmed that the commentaries are bhashas written by the Vaishnavacharyas on the basis of devotional service to Lord Vishnu, and not the Saridakya Bhasha of Shankaracharya give the actual explanation of the Vedanta Sutra. Okay, Pran Govind, I know you have a question. You're anxious to ask another question, so we'll give you permission. Just one question is all you get, because it takes all class time if we let you ask all the questions you want to ask. Okay, go ahead.
Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Prabhupada.
All glories to Prabhupada.
Now, it's kind of the previous discussion you had about the pramanam, prataksha, paroksha, all this.
Yeah.
So my question was that I don't see my brain, so I don't believe it. Or how this impersonalism established by the Naya instead of Smriti and Shruti as a prime praman. I could not reconcile that. How they come
Nyaya, we do not accept Nyaya as a primary praman.
I understand that, but I'm saying how Shankaracharya, Sadananda, his follower, established everything based on Naya first before Shruti and Smriti.
Well, they were bewildered. And they weren't bewildered, they had a mission, sorry. Shankaracharya had a mission. Because we understand, what does the Mahabharata say? Tarko, Pratishta, Shitrina, Vivinya. That one cannot establish the absolute truth simply based upon logic, nor by studying the Vedic literatures, because they're variegated, and only by Mahajanayena Gatasa Panta. This is ultimately the point, hearing from the Mahajanas. So no, you can't establish the absolute truth simply with deduction. See, the point is, when you're talking about nyaya, you're talking about a deductive process. And you cannot, using logic, establish the absolute truth precisely because you don't have the right axioms. Remember, I was talking about axioms?
Yes.
Axiom means a self evident truth. Like I gave the example of Descartes. I think, therefore I am, I'm conscious, therefore I am. So when you start logic and you don't have the original premises that are perfect, then whatever you derive is going to be wrong. Does that make sense? Logic can be
Yes.
used as a pramana when you have the proper axioms to begin with.
Is it the axiom Maharaj Prabhupada used that you cannot have a spiritual experience and sense gratification same time? It's not possible. It's axiom truth. He said that word
That's
axiom.
truth, but I wouldn't say that's axiom. That's I mean, it's axiomatic for us because that's what Prabhupada says. See, we accept as incontrovertible truth or truths everything that Prabhupada says when he is preaching from the Vedic literatures. I mean, sometimes Prabhupada is talking in a casual way, like like Prabhupada says, potatoes are the king of all fruits, king of all vegetables. Sorry. Now that's a different type of situation because when Lord Chaitanya was present, they didn't have potatoes, and even in Jagannath Puri, they refused to cook potatoes. So there's certain statements that Prabhupada makes. One has to understand hermeneutics according to the situation that may not be, maybe his personal opinion, which everybody has. Like even in the spiritual world, you have different parties. There's personal opinions there, but there's certain axiomatic truths, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur states in his Dashamula. These are axiomatic truths. Yeah, actually, that's good that we came to the Dashamula. Dashamula means the 10 truths, or roots, 10 roots. So these are axioms for us. So every type of conclusion we come to must be based on those axioms, which means incontrovertible truths. You can't go further down than that. You can't go more wise. Why is Krishna God? Well, tough. If you don't like it, it's tough for you. You can't tell why is God? Because he is God. Why does Krishna have 16,108 wives? Why doesn't he have 16,109 wives? That's his choice. So when you're getting a God, practically everything is axiomatic. But as far as our philosophy, the soul is eternal. The soul is part and parcel of God. We're talking about Dashamula right now. And so when you have these axioms, then you can use nyaya as a perfect tool based upon the axioms. But you cannot have nyaya as a pratishta, tarko pratishta. You understand? As the foundation. Nyaya can be used after you build your foundation of incontrovertible truths, which comes from Shruti.
I
From here,
notice you translate, Maharaj, you translate ontological as absolute.
what's absolute?
When we use the word ontological truth.
Ontological truth means the nature of the absolute truth.
I see.
Like you see, Krishna's ontology is that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's his ontological position. That's what it means. Ontological means, what is someone? Ontologically, you're a jiva soul. That's your ontological position.
Cannot be changed.
No, cannot be changed. Cannot be
Got you.
changed. You can change your Varna. Yeah, I mean, I look at it's hard. Vishwamitra Muni changed his Varna,
Yeah.
and Valmiki changed his Varna, but it took a lot of years. But the ontological position is like Dashamula.
Hmm.
Other things can be applied or not applied. Like devotees have this position. They talk about varnashram, and certainly Krishna says Chaturvarnamaya Shishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha, that we can understand people's nature according to their qualities and work. But it's not necessarily true that we have to establish varnashram in its entirety in ISKCON.
Mm.
We can establish certain aspects of it. So it's in other words, we're dealing with something that's details rather than principles.
Mm.
The principle is that everybody has a mode of nature. You're either a Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, whatever, or you're mixed. Like Prabhupada said, we're a mixed caste of unknown origin.
Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maharaj explains that you remember I asked you, and you gave a very nice example, and I was still looking. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Prem Pradeep book, he said that demarcation of each individuality maintained by these three eternal truth, that lover,
Yes,
beloved, and loved.
yes, that's right. So
So
these are eternal truths. These are axioms.
oh, I see. Okay, you can say axiom.
Axioms means things that you can't change. They're self-evident truth that
Mm-hmm.
are not based upon experimentation or logic. You base logic upon your axioms. You don't base your axioms upon logic. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I think you had your quota today.
Thank you.
All right, I got to go on, or else everybody's going to just complain to me.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
Maharaj.
that's all right. Let's go on. Text 107. Brahma pramada vipralipsa karana bhattava ishvareravakye nahi dosha e sabha. This is something I just mentioned when we were talking about the previous purport. The material defects of mistakes, illusions, cheating, and sensory insufficiency or inefficiency do not exist in the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They exist in all of us, though. We make mistakes, we're an illusion, we cheat ourselves at least, and we see things that aren't there and don't see things that are there and see things in a different way when they're there and don't see things when they're in a different way when they're not there, and who knows what that means anyway. So a mistake is an acceptance of an object to be different from what it is, or the acceptance of false knowledge. For example, one may see a rope in the dark and think it to be a serpent, or one may see a glittering oyster shell and think it to be gold. Well, that would be nice. These are mistakes. Similarly, an illusion is a misunderstanding that arises from the inattention while hearing, and cheating is the transmission of such defective knowledge to others. Wow. In other words, if you hear from a great devotee and you're not attentive, you're going to misunderstand. And if you give that so-called knowledge or misunderstanding to others, you're a cheater. Materialistic scientists and philosophers generally use such words as maybe, perhaps, or we believe, because they do not have actual knowledge of complete facts. Therefore, their instructing others is an example of cheating. Prabhupada one time had devotees tell a professor that he was a cheater. Anyway, the defect of the materialistic person is his inefficient senses. Although our eyes, for example, have the power to see, they cannot see that which is situated at a distance, nor can they see the eyelid, which is the object nearest to the eye. To our untrained eyes, the sun appears to be just like a plate, and to the eyes of one who is suffering from jaundice, everything appears to be yellow. Therefore, we cannot rely on the knowledge acquired through such imperfect eyes. The ears are equally imperfect. We cannot hear a sound vibrated a long distance away unless we put a telephone to our ear, or the mobile phone, or computer. Similarly, or devotees have a super loud kirtan that destroys eardrums. Sometimes you can hear it miles away. Similarly, if we analyze all our senses in this way, we will find them all to be imperfect. Therefore, it is useless to acquire knowledge through the senses. The Vedic process is to hear from authority. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Evam param para praptam, imam rajashayo viduhu. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in this way, or that way. We have to hear not from a telephone, but from an authorized person, for it is he who has real knowledge. That's the point. We have these defects, and we have to hear from a perfect person. Upanishad Sahita Sutrakahi Yetatva Mukya Vritye Se Artha Parama Mahatva. Is that Mahatva? That's right. The absolute truth is described in the Upanishads and Brahma Sutra, but one must understand the verses as they are. That is the supreme glory in understanding. And here Prabhupada deals with something that he talks about quite a bit, or has in the beginning of the movement. It has become fashionable since the time of Shankaracharya to explain everything regarding the Shastras in an indirect way. Scholars take pride in explaining everything in their own way. That's a dishonesty. Like if they use the Bhagavad Gita to present nonviolence, that's stupid. Why? Because Krishna is not explaining nonviolence, he's explaining the modes of nature and other things like that. There's no question of nonviolence in the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, at the end of hearing the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna decided to fight, which is real nonviolence, but I'm not going to explain that right now. So scholars take pride in explaining everything in their own way, and they declare that one can understand the Vedic scriptures in any way he likes. This any way you like method is foolishness, and it has created havoc in the Vedic culture. One cannot accept scientific knowledge in his own whimsical way. In the science of mathematics, for example, 2 plus 2 equals 4, and one cannot make it equal to 3 or 5. Yet, although it is not possible to alter real knowledge, people have taken to the fashion of understanding Vedic knowledge in any way they like. It is for this reason that we have presented Bhagavad Gita as it is. We do not create meanings by concoction. Sometimes commentators say that the word Kurukshetra in the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita refers to one's body, but we do not accept this. We understand that Kurukshetra is a place that still exists, and according to the Vedic version, it is a Dharma Kshetra, or place of pilgrimage. People still go there to perform Vedic sacrifices. Foolish commentators, however, say that Kurukshetra means the body and the Panchapandava refers to the 5 senses. In this way, they distort the meaning and people are misled, and they go to hell. Here, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that all the Vedic literatures, including the Upanishads, Brahma Sutra, and others, whether Shruti, Smriti, or Nyaya, that means the original 4 Vedas, after that, the Puranas and Itihasas, like Srimad Bhagavatam, and the histories like the Ramayana or Mahabharata, that's Smriti. Nyaya, that's logic, must be understood according to the original statements. To describe the direct meaning of the Vedic literatures is glorious, but to describe them in one's own way using imperfect senses and imperfect knowledge is a disastrous blunder. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu fully deprecated the attempt to describe the Vedas in this way. Regarding the Upanishads, the following 11 Upanishads are considered to be the topmost. Isha, which we have translated in ISKCON. Kena Kata Prashna Mundaka Mandukya Tatitriya Aitareya Chandogya Brihad Aranyaka and a Shvetashvatura. However, in the Muktikopanishad, verses 30 to 39, there's a description of 108 Upanishads. There as follows. Ishopanishad, Kenopanishad, Katopanishad, Prashnopanishad, Mundakopanishad, Mandukyopanishad, Tatiriyopanishad, Aitareyopanishad, Chandogyopanishad, Brihad Aranyakopanishad, Brahmopanishad, Kaivalyopanishad, Javalopanishad, Svetasvat, Toropanishad, Hamsopanishad, Arunegopanishad, Garvopanishad, Narayanopanishad, Paramahamsopanishad, Amrita Bindupanishad, Nada Bindupanishad, Shiropanishad, Artharva Shikopanishad, Maitrayanyapanishad, Koshika, Koshita Upanishad, Brajad Jabalo Upanishad, Nishingat Tapaniyo Upanishad, Kalagni Rudro Upanishad. Actually, we don't have to read this whole list because we'll be here all night long if we read the whole list. Okay. You can read it later on if you like. All right, so now we'll take questions. The next verse is text 109, which will start tomorrow. And actually, Prabhupada comments here at the end of the last purport. There are 108 generally accepted Upanishads, of which 11 are the most important, as previously stated. Okay, so now we will unmute. And we will allow you all to speak. And we want some others, other than the devotees who have been asking all the questions, por favor. Por favor means please. So other than, okay, Ujjwala. Ujjwala Rasagya has not asked a question in a long time. So you
Hare
have a
Krishna.
question.
Yes, pranams to you, Maharaj. Pranams.
Jai.
Maharaj, this is in regards to the Nyaya Vaiseshika Shaddarshan. Can I ask?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, my understanding is, Maharaj, the 6 systems of philosophies, Shaddarshana, Nyaya, Vaiseshika, Sankhya, Purvamimamsa, Uttarmimamsa, these are all
you left out
levels.
yoga. You left out yoga.
Yeah, Sankhya Yoga. Yeah. So these are all different
Sankhya
levels.
and yoga. Sankhya and yoga. They're actually a combination.
Yeah. So these are all different levels of understanding of the absolute truth.
Yeah.
But
different methodology. There are different methodologies of understanding the absolute truth. Yeah.
Right. So, but as the gradation goes from the Nyaya to the top Vedanta and finally the Bhakti, Vaishnavism, the understanding gets bigger and one gets a complete picture of the absolute truth. So, though there are different levels of understanding, if one is fortunate enough and chooses to get a complete understanding, then they will have to get in touch with a pure devotee who is in Vaishnavism. Otherwise, their understanding is incomplete. Is that right, Maharaj?
Yes. There's a verse that states that Yasmin Vigate Sarvam Evam Vigatam Bhavati. One who knows the truth or one who knows Krishna knows everything. So, in other words, if someone becomes a devotee, what is that verse? Dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam mupayanti te. Tesham satayuktanam bhajatam pradipurvakam. Then one doesn't really need to study Nyaya or Vaisheshika or Sankhya or Yoga or Purva Mimamsa. And one can go directly to Bhakti. Bhakti mam abhijanati yabanyas chasmi tatvataha. So these are all, I would say they're preliminary, and in many cases they can be deviations if one is not careful. And in this day and age, what is that verse? Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nishteva, 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 Gatiranyata. So in this day and age, Ikon Dharma, there's one Dharma actually, which is Krishna Nam Sankirtan. So these other processes without bhakti are actually not recommended.
I mean, though there are people who are still attracted to that philosophy, unless they get in touch with a pure devotee, they would not have a desire to know the complete truth, and they are always misled.
And some of the philosophies are completely off, like Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa is sometimes described as Karma Mimamsa, which means basically, yeah, if you act properly, Karma Mimamsa means if you act properly, then you'll get good results, whether or not there's God or whether or
Is
not
that
there's demigods.
that's
That's
Karma Kanda?
oh no, that's not Karma Kanda. No. Purva Mimamsa, Karma Mimamsa is I'm trying to think of the modern version. Dayananda Saraswati. Let's see, who taught? Anyway, I forget the name right now. It's what Krishna talked about in the Gita when he was trying to in the Bhagavatam when he was trying to dissuade the residents of Vrindavan from worshiping Govardhan Hill. It's completely bogus. It's completely bogus philosophy. And Uttara Mimamsa, there's two types of Uttara Mimamsa. One is the impersonal Uttara Mimamsa, and the other one is the personal one that we follow. So Uttara Mimamsa has two branches. Purva Mimamsa has many branches, but primarily it's the Karma Mimamsa, which is Karma Mimamsa. I'm trying to think of the modern word for it. Oh my God, I should remember this. There's organizations that preach Karma Mimamsa. Someone should remember it. Say the organizations that teach that we don't believe in deity worship. We don't believe in the stories and the Puranas. We just believe in Vedic rituals.
Those those are
Is it Arya
those
Samaj?
Arya Samaj?
Arya Samaj, yeah.
Arya Samaj,
Arya Samaj. Yeah, Arya
Dayananda
Samaj
Saraswati.
and
Yeah.
Brahmo Samaj. They're Purva Mimamsa.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me. I
Thank
should have remembered it, but I didn't.
you.
So Arya Samaj and Brahmo Samaj. They're also Purva Mimamsa. And they're actually many of them are against the deities. And I had one disciple. Well, I use the word past tense. I had one disciple who just happened to get married to a man from a Purva Mimamsa family, Arya Samaj family, and they threatened her that if you ever talk to your Guru Maharaj again, we'll kick you out of the house and you and your child out of the house and put you on the street. It was so demoniac.
Yeah, hard.
Pretty hellish, isn't it?
Yeah, Maharaj.
So one should know about the six darshans, the Shad darshans, Sankhya means basically to count. And they're actually in pairs. The six darshans can be found in pairs, like Sankhya and Yoga are one pair. Nyaya and Vaisheshika are another pair. And Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa are another pair. Okay,
Yes.
that's interesting. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Okay, and who, not Rakesh and not Pran Govinda, you are both prohibited from asking questions now. So until you become absolved of your question asking. Who else wants to ask a question? Or else I have to call in Pran Govinda or Rakesh. Save me. Someone save me. Oh, okay. I'll have to call in Rakesh.
Please accept my humble obeisance, Gurudev.
You didn't save me, you Prabhus.
Gurudev?
Yeah.
yesterday you were explaining about self-ego. So I understood exactly what the mind is and intelligence is, but self-ego, you said I and mine. Can you please elaborate a bit more on that? And how does these three come together actually in
I
holding
am
the
the center. Ishwaro ham aham bogi balavan. Let's say Ishwaraham aham bogi. Siroham balavan sukhi. That's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita from the divine and demoniac nature where Krishna says that we are thinking, Ishwaraham, I am the controller. Aham bogi, I am the enjoyer. Siroham, I am perfect. Balavan, powerful. And Sukhi, I am happy. I mean, I remember one time, years ago, there was a boxer. I don't know if you know what a boxer is. It's a person who punches other people for a living and gets paid for it. Can you imagine? What do you do for a living? Well, I punch people and I get money for it. Wow, what a way to make a living. Anyway, so there's a famous boxer named Muhammad Ali, also Cassius Clay, same name, AKA Cassius Clay. And he would always say, I am the greatest. And after a few years of boxing, the devotees ran into him in the airport, and he had been hit in the head so many times that the greatest was actually forgetting his own name. He couldn't speak clearly. So, I am the greatest. I am powerful. I. Self-centeredness. That's I. I am important. Look at me. And then mine. This is mine. So much can I have today. I want this car. That's an inside joke with some of the people who are watching. So I went with this car. There was one famous television personality. I think his name was Jay Leno or something like that. And now he's retired. And you look at his garage, he has like 50 cars in his garage. And even my father, actually, before he passed away, he had a big garage. And he had so many different cars. So mine, so much is mine. So many computers do I have today. So many disciples do I have today. And none of them listen to me. Maybe if I make enough disciples, maybe one will listen to me. It's like playing the lottery. Having disciples is like playing the lottery. You hope you'll strike it rich one time. Anyway, it's a joke. Forgive me for this one. So, anyway, gotta be careful of not laughing too much. So, that's it. I and mine. I want so much. We're like big amoebas. I don't know if you know what an amoeba is. Amoeba is like a one-celled creature, and it just like if it finds food, it just like surrounds the food and makes the food. It absorbs the food within its cell walls. So that's us. My home, my family, my wife, my children, my country, my race, my species. All these things are skin disease because we're identifying with ourself and then things, the extended self, like the race, our country, our gender. So Krishna consciousness means Vidya Biniya Sampani Brahmaniya Gavihastani. Shuni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshana, to see everybody and everything equally. Oh, Pran Govinda sent me a message. We love you, Mars. At least someone does. I was hoping that somehow, hope against hope, that someone would love me. Hope Krishna does too. Haven't figured that one out yet. No, he does. Obviously, Krishna loves me.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. So, let's see. One more question from someone who is equipoised. A big amoeba. Yeah, we're big amoebas. We want to absorb things. And you see people who are rich, I mean, really rich, like billionaires, multi-billionaires, they just like become richer and richer and richer. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. All right, so much is mine today, so much, he is my enemy, I have conquered him. This is demoniac mentality. So who
Hare,
else has a question?
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Sudharma, so you have a question. So what's up?
Yes, Gurudev. I'm thinking about I, me, and mine. What comes to my
Yes.
mind is that the cheating propensity that people come with to be cheated and to cheat others. So both are sinful. Like, if someone is doing something and we don't stand up and say something, that's also equally degrading. So can you please explain how we cope with such situations and to be
Well,
equipoised, as you say,
well, we
remember.
have to be strategic too. To correct an injustice, like what you're talking about, or to correct a fault, or to correct a lie, you usually have to be very strategic. Because sometimes, upadesho hi morkanam prakopayana shantaye, if you give a fool good instruction, it just makes them ashanta, angrier. So when dealing with situations, it's not always the best approach to be direct. One has to be strategic. Like Prabhupada is extremely strategic, especially when he was negotiating to get the property in Mumbai. He was extremely strategic in the way he dealt with everybody. So we have to understand strategy and not just open our mouths when it will have adverse effects. But it is our duty, if we can change something. There's this thing called the serenity prayer, which some of you may know or may not know. We should know the difference between the things that, I'm just paraphrasing it, we should know the difference between the things that we can change and the things that we can't change. And the things that we can't change, we just walk away from. You just don't want to beat your head against the wall. There's certain things we just can't change. What do they say? You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. I don't know if you know what a sow. A sow is a female pig, in case you didn't know that. So you can't make anything from silk out of a female pig's ear. I don't know why you try to do that, but that's the saying in English. So therefore, one has to understand, what you can change and what you can't change, and what you can't change, you just go to greener pastures. Don't waste your time on something that's not going to have any effect. That's my philosophy. And that was what Prabhupada did. It's just like, okay, so just like if one is a Majjamadhikari, one understands who is innocent, who is envious, what the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, and what a devotee is. And with the envious people, you don't waste your time. Just like when I used to go out in book distribution, many times I was approached by people of a specific religion who were telling me that I was going to hell. And I didn't waste my time arguing with them. I just said, yeah, I'm going to hell, so I'll have a good time there. And I just walked away. And many devotees, they would spend 2 hours talking to the person, and the person was just sucking your energy away. So you have to understand certain things are just hopeless. Unless Krishna gives you the ability, or unless it appears that you can make a change. I don't, certain things I just write off. I don't lament. I just don't look back. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, don't look at the past. Don't dwell in the past. Live at present. Something happened in the past. It's not going to make any difference. You can't change the past. Just move ahead and realize that's a serenity prayer. Know the difference between the things you can change, the things you can't change, the things you can't change. Just move ahead. And the things you can change, do your best. On that happy note, that positive note.
Thank you, Gurudev.
There's a positive note. I just know, after all these years in the Hare Krishna movement, I know who I'm dealing with, basically. I hope so by now. And I am not getting anxiety about it either. It won't help to be an anxiety or to try to push someone or get someone to do something that they ain't going to do. Okay, happy note. See everybody tomorrow evening. All glories to His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.